Hello, and welcome to the episode. This is the StackStorm Technical Deep Dive. I'm Rick Kaufman, Global TME here at HP Aruba Networking. All right, we talked about packs and everything we can do with packs, but what if we want to write a StackStorm action that goes out and just collects a bunch of information like alarms or whatever it's going to find, and it gets all this information, and maybe we want to put it in a database so some other service or application upstream could read from it. So that's super easy to do when we use PyMongo. So I'm going to show you how to use PyMongo, basically Mongo. I'm going to show you Mongo documents and how we feed those and how we load them into Mongo using PyMongo. So let's see how that works. Let's get started.
Keeping our eye on the actions. So we talked about this get people and went through that in painstaking detail. One thing I wanted to point out is when we do this URLs get URLs, why would you want to do something crazy like that, right? Because here in this class, I am just putting people onto the base URL, and that's my query that I'm sending this little subroutine get URLs. But you can see here when I do get URLs that it really doesn't care what that query is. It will take that query and just go and get all the URLs for that particular query. That means when I build a get planets, all I need to do is change it from people to planets, and I can reuse that same chunk of code. So I don't have to rewrite this get URLs routine in every one of my actions. If every one of my actions can use that, I can break that out as a standalone little subroutine, and I can keep it from duplicating it on my code. That's why that's written that way. So moving on, once we get the people, we were looking at the workflow earlier, we get the people and we put the array that we get back, the list of lists, we put that into the context. Now we want to get that out of there and get that information and load that information into a Mongo database. So the other action we're going to do that is called load Mongo. Now we've already seen we have a Mongo base action here, and from live actions, Mongo base action. Remember we got up there. So if we're using a password on the Mongo client, we would put it in here. But I am just using this DB client, and I'm just connecting to this. So when I do that, DB client just is this. So that's what returns self DB client. So when we actually go to load people py, let's take a look at the setup. The setup is load people, right? And so Python runner is the runner type. Load people py, and parameters are people. So that first script we ran, get people, puts it in the context. This guy is looking to find that, and it does in the workflow. We tell it in the workflow to go to the context and get that. So we're saying when we run this, we're going to say run people is one of the requirements. So it's going to need people. So it says I'm going to go out, my DB client, that's that connection to the Mongo database. Here is the DB that we're going to use, the swappy DB. All good. And now we're going to actually build a key value pair Python dictionary. So we just initialize a person and just give it a blank set of curly braces like this. And then we'll just start looking for the people is a list of lists, and we're going to start just chunking through, iterating through, and we're processing people. You need to spell people correctly. And so we're munging through this, we're getting through, and it's a list. So a Python list is just what it is, right? I can have Python list will start with a bracket, and then I could have Bob, John, Rick, Tom, Bill. It doesn't matter. Well, unless these are variables, it sure does. So this would be, of course, Bob would look like that. John would look like that. These are all just strings, Python strings. And I'm just building a list of strings. That's all a list is. Now, if this list was inside another set of brackets, right? I could have a comma here and have another list saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and boom. End of list, end of list. So here we've got a list inside with another list inside a list. So that's what we're getting back. When we run that get people, we're building a list, and inside that is a list containing all the attributes relating to that person. So when we do a list, the very first item in a list is 0. Very first position is 0, and it just numbers up through the list as we go through the list. Very basic stuff here, Python lists. That's all we're dealing with here. So we know that we go to the people that we're getting up here from the context, and we say, okay, the first thing is a list. So it's going to have, 0 through 12, so 13 items in it. And we're going to take those 13 items, and we're going to look. In the DB, we set up a DB connector here. We're going to say DB people, that's our collection, our people collection. We're going to count the documents. And we're going to be looking for the uname to match. Something doesn't, yeah, something's fine here. So we're saying, we're basically saying if there is 0 records or documents in the Mongo collection that have the name that we're trying to process, then we're going to go ahead and do it because it's not there. But if this fails, that means it's already in the database, so we're not going to write it again. That's our little check there. So yes, it's not there. It's our first time through. So we're just going to build this dictionary. So person, key value pairs. Key is uname, and the value is going to be what is ever the first thing in the list. On down through, we process through, and we have a couple of process flags. We have a Snow process and a Kafka process. I'm going to set them to no because I may want to go to this Mongo database and pull entries out and process them over in Kafka. Or I might want to process them in ServiceNow. Or I might want to process, I set a process flag for everything I'm going to use this for to no. And when it gets processed, we're going to set it to yes. So when we build the dictionary, we have the dictionary all built. The last thing we do is we write a record to the DB, to the collection people, and we insert one, and we insert the dictionary, clear the dictionary out, and we do it all again. We have some error messages in here. When this fails, we'll come back and say, yeah, it's already in there. And then we return the message. That's it. Okay, stay tuned. We'll see you in the next chapter.